pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead.
Roll call. Councilmember Kanne. Rodriguez.
Present.
Strong.
Here.
Stransky. Councilmember Stransky. Mayor Gonzalez.
Here. All right. First, I'm going to ask for everybody to mute their lines, those folks that are calling in, because it does cause quite the disturbance. And when the time is ready for folks to speak, I'll announce that. So if you can mute your lines, folks on telephones. All right. Due to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Orders N2520, which suspend certain requirements of the Brown Act, and the order of the Health Officer, County of Mendocino, to shelter in place to minimize the spread of COVID-19, the City Council members will be participating by teleconference or video conference for the meeting July 8th, 20. And we have an amended agenda, so I believe, point of order, I make a motion to add item 13A, which is post-session conference with labor negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54957.6. Agency negotiator Stephanie Gabaran Sierra, City Manager, and Karen Stevenson, Human Resources Analyst, employee organizations, Willits Police Officers Association, and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So I get a motion to...
I would so move.
A second?
I'll second.
All right. Further discussion? Let's call the vote.
Councilmember Kanne.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Strong.
Yes.
Stransky. Councilmember Stransky. Mayor Gonzalez.
Yes. Okay, now we are at item 2, public communication. The council welcomes participation in its meetings. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person so that everyone may be given an opportunity to be heard. To expedite matters and avoid repetition whenever any group of persons wishes to address the council on the same subject matter, the mayor may request that a spokesperson be chosen by the group. This item is limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the City Council which are not on the posted agenda. Public criticism of the City Council, commissions, boards, and agencies will not be prohibited. No action shall be taken. Anybody from the public that would like to speak on something that is not on the agenda?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, this is Micah Anderson. I have something I'd like to request if it's possible.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
My name is Micah Anderson. I'm one of the owners of the cannabis business in town on North Lenore called Leaf. I sent a one-pager out earlier today. I'm hoping that the council was able to review it. If not, basically at a really high level, what I'm requesting is that at the next council meeting or the next possible earliest convenience for the council, that I'd be able to address a new company that I would like to that we've launched out of our facility, and we're requesting a city to allow for us to apply for what's called a Schedule 1 DEA license, and it allows for us to do clinical research with a lot of the different compounds that we're working with, and allows for us to take what we're working on and do human research. We work with different CROs. One of them is in New Jersey, the other is in Southern California. We partnered with UCSD in Southern California and have a partnership with the School of Berkeley. So really that's it. It's just to be able to get maybe 10 to 15 minutes to address the council and bring you guys up to speed as to what we're working on, and see if we can get approval for the project.
Okay, this be something, Stephanie, that you should talk to Dusty first, or the planning department? Or
I actually have spoken to Dusty about it. We are
Not sure yet what kind of permitting it would require, so we need to look into it. We would love to have them come before council. Our next council meeting, however, is going to be very filled with budget and very hard things. I would, if Micah can wait until the first meeting in August, that would be great.
Yeah, that works for us.
Okay, then I can schedule him for that.
All right, thank you. Would anybody else from the public like to speak on something not on the posted agenda that's within our jurisdiction?
Hi. My name is Sharon Stevens, and I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak. I wanted to let you know that my roots in Willits go back 135 plus years. My concern is regarding the various festivities on the 4th of July. Barry's felt they have the right to include rodeo grounds into their private party, which is and does belong to the city of Willits. These festivities took place after Mr. Barry had been calling the council and expressing her concern over a small parade that had been planned by Katie Garcia. And she did not want this parade taking place. And she also wanted people fined if they chose to ignore the council and have the parade anyway. And due to the Barry's action on the 4th of July, they have created a large rift between the community and the Frontier Stays Committee. This rift is further reaching than you think, given the silent majority that I have talked to. The community is looking at the city manager and the council to take action in regards to this little fiasco. And I find it so sad, this situation, that it's given, we're now having such a problem with a facility that has been here for many years, the Frontier Days activities, and how long they've been running. Frontier Days are our heritage. Many of our people for years have worked tirelessly to bring us a spectacular 4th of July. Now this rift, due to a few who feel they're more privileged than others, has tarnished the good standing of this heritage. Barry's broke multiple regulations with the city and COVID regs. This cannot be swept under the rug or looked upon with blind eyes. To make matters worse, there has been
Ms. Stevens, your
outrageous
time is up.
reaction from...
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, would anybody else from the public like to speak? Matters under jurisdiction of the city, not on the agenda. Okay, at this point then, I am going to close public communication.
Can I add something, please?
Can you please state your name?
Hi, this is Rose Macy, and I was calling in regards to the exact same thing that the previous woman called about. And I think what she said in the very end is it should not be swept under the rug. A lot of people did not voice what they felt regarding the parade, me being one of them. I was looking forward to doing a safe celebration of our independence, but when the city and the county sent the organizers a letter, they backed down, doing it because they didn't want to create any havoc. And then the Willits Frontier Days had their little celebration, which was probably more than 6 people listening to music. And I found it very hypocritical, frustrating, and angry over the whole situation. And I feel that you, as representatives of the community, need to address this further. And I would like to see them get some sort of fine, basically because of their hypocrisy in causing so much havoc over having a safe 4th of July. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I'm done.
I'd like to add something. That's okay.
Mayor Gonzalez, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. At this point, unless there's any other, I'm going to go ahead and close it, but I'm asking that everybody mute their lines.
I heard somebody else in the public who wanted to speak.
Adriana Martin Wyatt is trying to speak. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It's Adriana. Katie and I are both on the call, and we don't want anybody fined. We're not advocating for any fines for anything. We just feel sad. I guess we wanted to just share that we feel sad, and to kind of up on your letter, hoping to know that we did listen, we respected the numbers, and we absolutely canceled the parade. And as far as you guys know, and same as us, nothing happened besides the Frontier Days thing. But we're not advocating for any fines, and just I guess wanted to follow up on that with you guys. So thank you so much for listening to us at the last meeting, and thank you for everything you're doing here. So hope you had a good 4th of July.
Thank you. All right. Next call for anybody else that would like to speak before I close public comment. Going. Okay, at this point I'm going to close public comment. And we're going to move on to item 3, public matters, not seeing any. Item 4, enactment of ordinances, not seeing any. And then item 5, what I've been told is that is consent calendar, and that we needed to pull the June 10th minutes, that they are not part of our packet. So we have the June 24th, 2020 minutes, and a resolution ratifying and extending an additional 30 days City Council's declaration and order of existence of emergency as a result of novel coronavirus COVID-19 pursuant to resolution 2020-10. Anybody from the public? Okay. A motion from Madge?
Yes, for approval of the consent calendar.
Do I have a second?
I'll second
Do I have a-
Greta.
Okay, seconded by Greta. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for any public comment on this. Anybody from the public like to speak on items on the consent? Okay, Kathy, roll call.
Councilmember Connie,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Strong,
Yes,
Stransky,
Yes.
Mayor Gonzalez.
Yes.
can I make a comment regarding the public communications that we got, just to look into or get report back to us? Is there anything that the city can or should do regarding the situations that were brought to our attention?
That would be appropriate. The city manager could look back to us. Is anything that is within our jurisdiction?
And then maybe report back at our next meeting, I don't know.
Madge, this is Sabrina, and I don't want to comment on public comment because I don't want to break the protocol, but I think that it would be appropriate, should we have any comments or direction, that maybe we could do that under the time when we get to comment at the end, so we can have a larger conversation. Does that sound good?
Okay.
Okay. Stephanie, did we cut you off? Were you going to say anything, or are you going to resume?
No, that's good. We'll wait till the end. That sounds like a plan.
All right.
We'll respond then.
Item 6, I see no informational reports. Item 7, commission agencies and authorities. We sit as the Planning Commission and Successor Agency, and I see no business there. Now, item 8, city manager reports and recommendations. Stephanie, you're on again.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Yes, this is Stephanie Gerbrandt here, City Manager, and I just had a few updates that I wanted to discuss. We have 11 new cases of COVID-19 in Mendocino County just yesterday. Not all of those made it to the dashboard, as the various demographic information has not been completed yet, but I did want folks to know that it was 11 new cases yesterday. The health order has been, we had a call with the county this morning, and all of the city managers of the county have been a little perplexed by the new order. It's not the clearest order, and we were hoping for some clarification that this order keeps getting longer and longer and longer, and it's getting more and more confusing for us to understand, and I think that that's universal. And so we did put that out to the county, is that we need some better messaging so that people could understand what is actually being required of us as a public health order. And their response was that they're very busy with contact tracing, and they've reached out for the state for some assistance, and because the governor keeps changing the order, they're trying to respond as quickly as possible. But we did express that we needed better clarification from the county and more information. And I'm sorry I can't get more information to you, because we're just not getting it. Would also like to thank Alan Grossman and Deborah Frank for the generous donation, because we have a beautiful new shade structure at our skate park, which is fantastic. We also wanted to thank Jeannie King for making a donation to our police department that we are looking at to do a once COVID is lifted, to do a coffee with a cop program with, because we think that would be a nice thing to do. She had given us some money for just some refreshments for the police department, and they wanted to give that back to the community and do a coffee with a cop. So I wanted to thank her. I wanted to let folks know that we have been allocated $62,000 in CARES money, and we are applying for that. That is to be used only for COVID-related expenses. So far there's no money been allocated other than to reimburse us for COVID expenses at this time. I did want to, I did also find out from the county call that, because we're constantly wanting to know what the status of COVID is within our city limits, and we just don't get that information. But I did find out that apparently they do notify the dispatchers of every city if the addresses of any cases that they know of within the city. So that first responders go out to that address, it's flagged. And so that first responders do know, and they're able to use all their PPE. that information is not given to us or the city manager or anyone else because of HIPAA regulations. And this is actually the first time that we as city managers knew about this, so that we all thought that was very interesting. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Guess we're at department recommendations, item 9. A, adopt a resolution awarding a contract to American Asphalt Repair, the amount not to exceed at $188,619.58. Construction of the 2020 Pavement Preservation Project, project number 2020-01, and authorize the city manager to execute a contract and approve construction change orders up to a cumulative total of 10% of the total contract amount. So, Jeremy or Andrea?
Yes, I'm here. This is Andrea Trincato-Slater, project manager. I'm recommending an award of contract to American Asphalt Repair for an amount not to exceed $188,619.58 for the pavement preservation project, which would slurry seal Redwood, Hale Creek Subdivision, Mill Street, West Valley Street, Easy Street, Sanhedrin, Madden, a portion of North Street, Maple Street, Laurel, and Wood. And we opened bids on June 17th, and American Asphalt Repair was the lowest responsive bidder. And we are requesting permission to proceed with a notice of award. Are there any questions?
I have questions. This is Greta.
Greta.
I was just curious. I understand the reasoning behind doing PPP. I think it's a great use of funds, and I understand that major rehabilitation takes a toll, as we did last summer, and so this summer we're not going to have much in the way of major rehabilitation. We'll save that hopefully for next year while our funds replenish. I just wonder, do we have plans on the books for 2021 for major rehabilitation? And then secondarily, I wanted to ask if no, let's just hold it, and I'll have you answer that one before I go into my next one.
Okay. West Mendocino, a portion of West Mendocino is planned for next year. That will be a phased project. I'm not sure if the phases will come, one after another, but we're planning to address some of the worst portion of the area around the school. And we're looking at drainage in particular on that project. And there are a number of other projects that are in the works. And the one that's the furthest along is Blosser, a rehabilitation of Blosser. And it's one that we're looking at for to try to get some type of funding for. So there are, in terms of road jobs, those are the two on the forefront.
Okay, thank you. I also wondered, I noticed in the staff report that it's indicated that substantial staff time is required even for the PPP. And I just wondered if we're going to kind of trade off from year to year from doing rehabilitation projects, every other year. Is it too much to ask to also be doing PPP every year, considering the fact that it does take substantial staff time? And maybe it would be, I'm just, kind of wondering out loud, would it be more beneficial to reserve staff time for some of those bigger projects that get to the underlying problems and the more major projects?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. The PPP requires significantly less time than those major rehab projects. I think we had a number of things come up this year, and the pavement preservation, as well as the prioritization of the Main Street, the downtown improvement project, that took the majority of our time this year. So while it's not a major like a road rehabilitation project, that was our primary focus this year. I think that a combination of them is good, and that's what we will try to maintain. We try to strive for one larger project a year, and last year was pretty significant. So this year, we are having a smaller year, but we're still accomplishing the pavement preservation project as well as the Main Street downtown improvement project. So yeah, I mean, it's our goal to really do both in a year, do a big project as well as the pavement preservation project. But at some point, we're going to reach a point where we catch up with our good streets. I think we've been doing quite a bit of catch up. And next year, we're planning to do, and possibly in this same fiscal year, we're striving to do a major dig out project that would address some of the bad spots in roads and not do a full rehabilitation of a road, but address a lot of really bad spots throughout town. So that would be a part of pavement preservation.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know you guys really do work to balance those two aspects, preservation versus rehabilitation. We didn't get one this year, but last year we got the State of the Roads presentation, and I kind of nerded out on it. I thought it was great, and I heard from community members that they really appreciated hearing what the sort of goals are and the prioritization list, which of course people acknowledge can change. Is it possible that we can get a State of the Roads like maybe every other year? Is that reasonable to ask? Or how
absolutely. We were intending to do one this year, and we may still do one later in the summer or sometime when things mellow out a little bit. We are going to be entering into construction here shortly, but it is our goal to get one done this fiscal year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate your answers.
You're welcome.
Sabrina, do you have anything?
I do not. Thank you.
Madge?
Nothing new. Thank you.
Larry, do you have any questions? Or?
Oh.
Okay. I just want to say thank you to our engineering staff for putting this together. I know it never makes everybody in the community happy, but we got to keep them, have this in good working order while we look to combine, and I guess all our different projects, so that we're not paving and then cutting up the street to put in water line or something. That was always something that got to me. I see brand new pavement, then we cut into it. So I really appreciate the work you guys are doing. So at this point, would anybody from the public like to ask any questions?
This is Andrew Osborne. I just have a quick comment about the potential road changes, or not road changes, but improvements. But just a little bit of feedback from my experience with the slurry seal project. Last year, I think it was a great improvement to the road. It does maintain the roads for a lot longer time. One of the things I would ask for consideration for during the projects, or I don't know if it's a box that we can check off or whatever, is to work with the businesses that are affected by the road changes, and to have active communication with them as it's happening. I know it adds a little bit of complexity to the jobs, but I don't think it's overreaching. I work for Straight On Supply, and at the retail store, we were informed that we wouldn't be able to access East San Francisco for the entire day. And then also our wholesale yard that's at the end of East San Francisco Avenue, we had arranged an alternative route for our freight going into the yard because of that understanding. But in actuality, the project didn't start until I don't know exactly when it was, but I'm going to say like 10 or 11 o'clock. And so there were multiple hours in the morning where we could have conducted business. And then they were also done within a short period of time, and the road was open, which we were appreciative of. But just being able to have an understanding of what the actual impact is to the businesses that are affected by those types of activities, I think that we could communicate a little bit more proactively and would appreciate. That's all I have.
This is Stephanie Gerbrandt-Sierra. I just wanted to, I know that project was, we had complaints about it. I want to let you know that was actually not a city project. That was a PG&E project. And when we did hear complaints, we reached out to PG&E, and they said that they would do better, and I think they did. But when you do receive complaints, call them in, and we'll do everything we can. But that particular project was not a city project. But thank you. We will do everything we can.
Actually, it
was the slurry seal project. No, it wasn't the city project.
Oh, it was the slurry seal. I thought
it was the slurry seal
most recent.
And yes, I understand what you're saying, and it is. We do strive to communicate. I know that was a rough day, and we try to minimize the impacts as much as possible. In the early morning, the road needed to be cleaned, and with the slurry seal project, they are moving very fast through the streets, trying to get them all done, and it's difficult to pinpoint exactly when they're going to finish up a street and come over to another street. We really tried to minimize the impact as much as possible, and open up the road as quickly as possible. But it is extremely difficult to pinpoint exact times and to restrict the contractor in that way during that project. So I know that experience was frustrating, but I want you to know that we are trying to coordinate and minimize the impacts as much as possible, and ask the contractor as well as ourselves to try to reach out and facilitate the least amount of impacts.
And I'm sorry for misinterpreting. I'm not hearing very well your comments over the phone, and I know I was really frustrated when San Francisco closed, and that was PG&E, so my apologies.
Any other comments on this item? Thank you, Andrew, for bringing that up. We always appreciate feedback. All right, at this point, I'll bring it back up. Les, and do I have a motion?
This is Madge. I'll move approval of staff recommendation on item 9A.
I second it. Larry.
By Madge, seconded by Larry. Unless there's any further discussion, let's call for the vote.
Councilmember Kanne?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Strong?
Yes.
Stransky?
Yes.
Mayor Gonzalez?
Yes. Now we are on item 9B, discussion possible action approving resolution to authorize an agreement with Perpetual Solar Project, LCC, to terminate our purchase agreement and purchase the solar system facility at the water treatment plant for a total sum of $730,000 paid from the Waterfront Enterprise Fund, and authorize the city manager to execute related documents. Is this Ratifying, or is this Stephanie?
Yes. I'm presenting this one. In 2007, the city entered into a power purchase agreement with, at that time, it was Solar Energy One, and to purchase energy from a solar array that was built at the city's water treatment plant. The ownership of the system has since transferred to Perpetual Energy, and the terms of the PPA required the city to purchase all of the power produced by the system with a 3% discount off of PG&E rates. Based on past costs, staff had, discussed and suspected that savings could be realized if the city were in an ownership role of the solar array and could fully benefit from the solar generation there. And a energy consultant was hired, Kenwood Energy, to appraise the system, and in that analysis, they determined that the rate specified by the PPA didn't offer the best savings for the city, and that the system generated more power than the water treatment plant needed. And we've been in discussion with Perpetual Energy for past months, trying to come up with a resolution to purchase the system. And the system, the buyout, the termination schedule in the PPA specified a buyout amount of $1.25 million as of July 1st of this year. Every year it comes down. But in our discussions and negotiations, we were able to successfully negotiate a buyout cost of $730,000. We've looked at the potential savings of purchasing at this price, and have determined that it would take about 5 to 6 years of savings realized to pay off the system. And we have a total of another 12 years on the PPA. So this has been determined to be very much in the city's favor to purchase the system at this time. And I guess with that, I'd like to just see if there's any questions.
This is Jerry, and one question. It sounds like we had 12 years left, and the life of the system that we're buying off of them, not sure if that was in there somewhere else.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
How much longer will this thing work, I guess? What's the life?
Yeah, so when it was built, it was estimated to have a useful life of 25 years. We're 13 years into that, so it would have an estimated useful remaining life of 12 years. However, it could run longer than that, and definitely, I'm sure components of it may need to be replaced over time, but we could get a lot longer out of it than that. But I think what we can anticipate, and what we've done our due diligence on investigating the system and trying to determine, the condition of the system. We've looked at, there's actually a list, a mutually agreed upon list of maintenance tasks that will need to be performed with the transfer of this, and I should have mentioned that before. And that the quoted price for that work is $16,500. The Perpetual provided a discount on a credit towards the purchase price if we handled the maintenance, and that was the cleanest way to do it with a contract. So that's another thing that we'll be doing with this purchase is taking care of, there's maybe a couple of broken panels that need to be replaced, and some other maintenance tasks. So with that, and look with our energy consultants and Perpetual's maintenance people looking at it, we've we've determined that or they've determined that it is in good working condition and should have a useful life of 12 years remaining at least.
Thank you. At this point, Sabrina, do you have any questions?
No, I feel like we've had pretty good information for quite some time in working toward this, and I appreciate Andrea and others' hard work in getting us to this point.
Thank you. Retta, do you have anything?
I just want to say I'm really excited about this. I think that this is a savings to the taxpayers, and your hard work is really appreciated. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Madge?
I agree with the previous two comments. I'm really thrilled that we're going to own our own solar array. I think it's sort of too bad that we didn't buy it in the first place, because we probably would have realized a lot more savings if we'd owned it all the way through. But I'm glad we're doing it now, and I think that it'll pay for itself in the 7 years, and then we continue to get the benefits, not only to our pocketbook, but we also are not putting greenhouse gases into the air with more PG&E or other power sources. So I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Larry, do you have anything?
The first thing I want to do is say to the other people on the council, the city did not have the money to purchase it outright when we first did it. And I think that it's a step forward now. But
Okay, thank you. At this point, I have a motion.
Mayor, may I just say, this is Stephanie Gebrants here. I just wanted to thank Andrea for her hard work on this project. She has doggedly been pursuing this, and she has put a ton of time and effort and real analytical skill into this. She has made sure that every T was crossed and every I was dotted, and worked with our consultants to make sure that this was really a good deal for the city. And I just wanted to congratulate her for her excellent work on this.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but I did not do it alone. Scott Herman, Suzanne, and Stephanie all worked with me on this, and it was definitely, as pretty much everything we do here is a team effort.
Thank you, Andrea.
Do I have a motion?
Can't hear you, Jay.
We have a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Motion by Madge, seconded by Sabrina. Unless there's any further discussion, at this point I'll see if there's any public comment. Okay, bringing it back up here. Kathy?
Councilmember Kanne.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Strong.
Yes.
Stransky.
yes,
Mayor Gonzalez.
Yes. All right. At this point, we're actually department recommendations. So we start out with is our chief of police on? Okay. Dusty was gone. Deputy development. Everything there?
Hello, Mayor. This is Chief Allen.
Oh, Chief Allen. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I have nothing to report.
All right, thank you. Planning or building?
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Dusty Dooley, Community Development Director. Just a few things really quickly. The council recalled at a previous meeting, the council passed a resolution allowing the city manager or her designee to waive zoning requirements or other standards to facilitate business operations that have been affected by the current situation with COVID-19. And I'm happy to say that a few businesses have already taken advantage of that process. We have an application online, or you can certainly contact us. We're happy to email it to you. However, the best way is to get that application out to folks to issue these temporary zoning permits to allow them to do such things as make use of their parking lot to do vending outside, or the most common one that we've seen so far is using establishing outdoor seating within their own property or within the public right-of-way or sidewalk in certain cases. We're going to go ahead and staff's going to spend some time trying to contact local businesses to make them aware of that tool and see if they might have some creative ideas to make use of that new tool that the council approved. And certainly it's appropriate for anyone that's listening to spread the word out so that businesses are aware of this flexibility that we're able to provide for a limited time while we're still in this emergency situation. So I just wanted to report on that very quickly. A couple updates on grant matters. Staff was successful in obtaining $30,000 in CARES Act funding to support airport operations. And this is expected to include maintenance of our existing buildings, fixing some of the fences around the airport, etc. Bill Wilson was nice enough to get us a good list of things that need to get done up at the airport before his untimely passing. And so I'm glad to report out that we are successful in obtaining that $30,000 that's coming through the CARES Act. And that will be uploaded to the Delphi system and available to the city, I've been told, in the next few days. So I believe that's good news. The other one, staff or the council may recall that we obtained money, SB2 planning grant funding previously, and the amount was $160,000. There was another round of funding. It was called Local Early Action Planning Grants. It was another over-the-counter funding opportunity, and staff completed a grant request for $65,000, the maximum that the city of Willits was eligible for. And the purpose of the funding that we've requested is to actually do a comprehensive review of the city zoning. So, for instance, we've talked in the past about the fact that we have a single-family residential neighborhood that's completely zoned commercial, and that was just one example of the possible need to really take a comprehensive review of our existing zoning, see if the council wanted to support any changes to that. The idea is, I think, to possibly merge the $65,000 through the LEAP grants if we're successful in obtaining that with the previous funds that we received to look at a sphere of influence update. It's possible that we might be able to get more design work done if we combine those funds and combine those two projects. And again, this is consistent with some of the high priority goals that the council has identified in the previous two goal setting sessions. And we'll be bringing some more information to you at a future council meeting and explaining this a little bit further. But I wanted to give you that brief introduction to that matter. And that's what I had to report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dusty. And again, thank you for putting on that thing with the businesses. Matt, you had a question?
Yeah, just a question to Dusty. The sphere of influence is part of the potential annexation process. It seems like, I don't know, how long does these things take, but it seems like it's going on forever and ever, and I hope there's a timeline that is within my lifetime that we actually can annex and get more housing. And so do you have a sense of when that might happen?
Well, the issue that we ran into, and it's related to this new Senate Bill S743 that changes the way that you have to review traffic impacts under CEQA. And essentially, what happened is the funding that we had available to support that project didn't appear to be sufficient. because of the cost associated with doing the environmental document behind it. And the other part of, the goal that was set forward with the SB2 funds was to revise our sphere of influence and bring those properties that the council and community thought were appropriate to potentially be annexed into the city in the future, and to include those lands within our sphere of influence. But the reality is that to actually annex the land, you're at the mercy of other players. For instance, you have to have a tax sharing agreement with the county in order to be eligible to annex land. So there's certain things that you need to team up with your neighbors to actually realize an annexation. And certainly there's a history of those types of negotiations taking a while. So the strategy then became to try to obtain additional funds, which we made application for with these LEAP planning grants, and to try to put a request out to do both a comprehensive review of the existing city limit zoning, as well as the pre-zoning of the land to be included in the sphere of influence, which again is that we're primarily looking at that land south of Della Avenue that's residentially zoned, as well as possibly do a review of our actual land use element of the general plan. And it's possible that if we combine those projects and turn it into one environmental document, that maybe that would be sufficient funds to support the project that I think we're all wanting to see. I hope that was kind of a long answer, but I hope it made sense.
Well, I really know that this is one of your high priorities, and I really appreciate that you're still on top of it as much as you can be. But as you said, we're at the mercy of some other players. But it's so vital that we are able to move ahead, and so I look forward to progress when and if you make it. And I think your plan about consolidating the funding sources and doing one environmental analysis that will include all of that would be very expeditious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dusty, does she have anything else or any other questions of Dusty? All right. Jackie, do you have anything?
Yes, I just would like to remind the community that city council elections are coming up, and those that would like to run for city council, nomination packet period starts on Monday, the 13th, and runs until August the 7th. Anyone wishing to run for city council and lives within the city limits can contact me to set up an appointment to check out a candidate's packet. Thank you.
And is anybody from Public Works or Engineering left off? Anything else? Legal? Jim? Nope. Okay. Human Resources?
No, thank you, not at this time.
All right. I guess at this point, we will move on to item 10, City Council Committee Boards and Agency Reports. Do you have any, Madge?
Okay, yes. First of all, Sonoma Clean Power met on July 2nd, and the Santa Rosa City Council has gone completely to evergreen. So that's Sonoma Clean Power's most environmentally responsible option, and so they have reduced their impact on greenhouse gases by 50% by going to the evergreen option with Sonoma Clean Power. So they were very excited about that. There's also an important any residential projects that are coming down the pike. So I want Dusty to know about this. They have grants for advanced energy buildings, so various incentives available. So anybody who is building new residential development should be looking into that from Sonoma Clean Power. We talked a little bit about the PG&E bankruptcy that was approved, various state legislation that affects that, and I think that's about it that's relevant. Then on EDFC, the Economic Development Financing Corporation, I reported last time that we went through some bumps in the road. There was an executive committee meeting about a week ago, and they are recommending an interim executive director who is Jesse Burnett, who has been on the board of EDFC for quite some time. He's a Native American, very well qualified, and he's really looking for it. But it's a recommendation to the full board, and the board of EDFC will be meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock in case anybody wants to get the link for that. And the Mendo Recycle is not going to be meeting in July. That's it.
Right, Sabrina, do you have anything?
No, MTA met the same day as our last meeting, so nothing new to report.
Thank you. Greta?
Madge and I sit on the ad hoc committee to look at the code of conduct and ethics, and we met 2 weeks ago now with HR Director Karen Stevens. I think we had a very productive meeting where we looked at setting sort of the ground rules for what we're looking for, and looked at some examples from other cities. We are going to meet again this Friday, and I think that it was a good meeting where we're all getting to be on the same page.
Good, thank you. Larry?
MCOG does not meet this month.
Okay. And none of the stuff that I'm on has met. LAFCO canceled their meeting for July, and our next meeting is August, and so at that point, so yes, we are city council member reports and recommendations. So, Madge.
Okay, one thing I wanted to, it's sort of a good and welfare, I'm not sure whether it's 11 or 12, but anyway, Willits Economic Localization, the nonprofit group that I'm on the board of, is having a local food security forum on July 19th. It's Sunday the 19th at 4 o'clock, and anyone who is interested in finding out what we can do and what we are doing to try to be more secure in our food supply locally is urged to attend that. We have Michael Foley, who's going to kind of be the moderator, and we have at least 4 different guests who are going to talk about local grains, local meat, local veggies, and how to, and the Mendo Lake Food Hub is part of that. The Grange, the School of Adaptive Agriculture. We have really a lot of exciting things happening, and this is to get the word out and also to keep getting people's ideas about how to be more food secure locally, because as we noticed at the beginning of the pandemic, distribution systems nationally can be less than secure.
Brett?
I just wanted to report that, sort of tying into some of the public comments that we heard earlier this evening, I received a metric ton, and I think that's an accurate measurement, of calls and messages over this weekend regarding the event held at the Berry home. I know that there are a lot of people in the community who are very concerned about it. I did discuss at length with 2 members of the board what some of the community concerns were, and I believe that they heard the concerns. And so I just wanted to let the public know that I have heard you, and I have done what I think is the appropriate thing to reach out to the parties involved, and I think that they are listening. So I appreciate everyone's comments, and I also wanted to say I appreciate everyone who stayed home and had a safe and quiet 4th. Thank you.
All right, Sabrina.
I did drive around town and noticed that it was very quiet, and I know that it was a hard decision not to have a parade slash procession, but the event organizers canceled that, putting the greater good of the community, not even so much that they believed that there was a risk to the community, but rather I think their main focus was not creating any hostility or further division in our community, which I very much appreciated that they took that into account. With that being said, like many of you, my late 4th of July and my 5th of July was inundated with calls and messages because of the fact that leadership in the Frontier Days Rodeo decided to hold their singing event. Some of the concerns I have is, yes, we know that it took place outside city limits. There are concerns that there were property that belonged to the Frontier Days that was used, which is inside city limits. And there's also concerns about the fact that I know that I personally was approached by the individual who held the event, as well as were other council members, and solicited and asked that we do everything we can to ensure that there is no parade and procession, and that their main focus was making sure that there was going to be an October rodeo. And so when these events came about, I was puzzled as to why they would create such division and hostility in our community and put our businesses at risk of being closed, and potentially not having a rodeo in October. So I just want to express my deep concern and disappointment about their actions. I think we can't understate, and I don't want to see it swept under the rug. I know that a lot of people in this community feel like this council isn't going to do anything about it because it happened outside the city limits. And I'm not saying that the council has a lot that they can do about it, but we've talked a lot, and I've heard Mayor Gonzalez talk about good actors in the community. And certainly when people do things like this, when you're in a leadership role, it does have a greater impact on all the members of our community and in that particular group. And there are some really wonderful, hardworking people that are a part of the Frontier Days organization. It's unfortunate that they're being lumped together, or that there's this division between the organizers of the parade procession and the Frontier Days. I'm really dismayed to hear that either parties have been receiving any kinds of threats, and I would encourage the community kind and civil, and to restrain from any kind of threats or abrasive comments. All these parties are longtime members of our community. They contribute. We appreciate them, and we want everybody to feel, after this blows over, that this is their community and they can be a part of it. Let's see, what else did I have on here? I had a question for Madge earlier. When you were asking the city manager to bring back some further information, what specifically would you like what information were you looking for?
I guess I was wondering if there was anything that the city, like the fact that they apparently used the rodeo grounds to gather people. I don't know exactly what took place that was on city property, whether we had any role to play in, but I'm really glad, by the way, I really wanted to thank you, Sabrina, for the comments you just made. I really, that resonates a lot with me. And I was really also very glad that Greta has approached the people that were planning, that did this party, and that they're receiving the message that they're, A, they're putting people at risk, and B, even more important perhaps, because if they don't think they're putting people at risk, they are putting the community's well-being and the trust that we need to have for each other at risk. And so I think your comments were really right on there. And we need to keep the lines of communication open. We need to make sure we're respecting and treating each other civilly, even when we disagree, and putting the community's interests first. So it's more important that we observe these protocols because of that, not just for the individuals who might think, well, I'm not worried about it or whatever. You know, I think I hear so many different opinions, and people do have to make their own personal choices about how much risk they want to take. But when they do something that affects the whole community and that undermines the trust and respect that we have for each other, that's on another level. And we have to bend over backwards to not violate that kind of trust. So I don't think we need to, I don't think there is anything we can do as far as enforcement. If the county wants to pursue it because it was out of city limits, that's another matter. So I don't expect to get any report back.
I want to share one suggestion, and I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with it, but I do want to share it because I feel like it's been brought up in more than one conversation. And that's that, will the city have a plan going, or will the city have some oversight going forward with Frontier Days events? So, for example, Frontier Days came to us and told us that they were canceling the 4th of July festivities, but should they decide to hold an event, do they need permission from the city going forward to ensure that all health and safety protocols are followed? Should we write them a letter just out of, I guess what you might call fairness? I mean, we issued a letter to this group saying, please do the right thing. Would it be appropriate to ask them that any future activities fall under the same criteria that we ask of the other group? I'm concerned that there's a perception that this council is going to look the other direction after having made kind of a big to-do over the last situation. And I just want to be equal. I want to be fair to all parties and make sure that people feel heard.
That's a good point. And I think that would be something for Stephanie to come back with, some kind of planning forward. What kind of role do we play in reviewing and making sure that any activities that are planned within the city meet the protocols? If that's okay.
I think Jim and I can both respond to that. We don't have to really come back. The issue is, so my understanding, and obviously I received my share of phone calls as well, and I did learn what actually occurred. And my understanding is that a small event happened outside the city limits that was not a Frontier Days event. It was put on by a person who was on the Frontier Days board, who is a volunteer for that board. As a private person acting outside of the city limits and not under the guidelines of the Frontier Days, as I've been told, the city certainly would not have any purview over that. And Jim can chime in as well. The relationship between Frontier Days and the city is one of a contract. It is actually a lease agreement, and that is it. They are not a part of the city. They are a nonprofit charitable organization. And as we have contracts with, hundreds of people, all the rules have to be applied equally. And so this event, if any person were to plan an event within the city limits, we would treat them the same. And if we learned that there was going to be a mass gathering, I certainly would want to treat everybody the same. However, a private event, I believe, was 15 people outside of the city limits. I don't think that there's anything. Certainly, the city could or it would be appropriate for the city to do. And I'm looking for Jim to chime in on this one.
Hi, Jim Lance, City Attorney. Yeah. You know, I don't know what all the facts are, but if they are as Stephanie just summarized, and it was not a official event of the Frontier Days organization, and it was outside of the city limits, and the only connection to Frontier Days is that it was at the house of a board member for Frontier Days, then I would agree with Stephanie's analysis. And that being said, I believe that the city has had a strong and cooperative relationship for many, many years with Frontier Days. They have, I believe, a 50-year lease that they're occupying the premises for $1 a year. And that was entered into because the city saw the value of the Frontier Days annual event and wanted it to continue. And the lease recites that fact. It says that it requires the Frontier Days organization will continue to hold this event in the same or similar manner that they have historically done so, because the city recognizes the benefit it has to the community. And so I would say, though, that because there has been a good cooperative relationship between the parties, and given these unique circumstances that we're now living in, that it would be prudent for the city manager perhaps to have a conversation with the organizers of the next event that they plan, and just to ensure that they are going to be conforming with county health orders. And I think that they would gladly give such assurance.
And I would be happy to do that.
I appreciate the response, and I understand where you're coming from, and I think that from your perspective, your focus is on the fact that an event took place outside city limits, and I know that the number of participants has changed from information that we received prior and information that we received tonight, and even from that of the participants themselves. But that's not the issue. It's about the fact that the person who held the party actively solicited city council members as a member of this nonprofit to vote a particular way addressing an issue of a parade and a procession, and then did exactly the opposite of what they did. And I think it goes to character, and if this person is part of a leadership organization within the city limits that operates, it is relevant to the city. And so I don't want to just shrug it off and say, we can know Frontier Days has been a wonderful organization for many years, we're going to let this go. There are many wonderful people right now in the Frontier Days organization that don't agree with what took place. Within their own group, there are many that are not happy about what happened. So I just think an acknowledgement, what I would like to see is I think that it's appropriate that there should be an apology. We can't ask for it, but certainly it would be nice if the individual gave an apology and cleared the air about what took place, so that we can move forward, because this isn't just a simple little item that we're addressing on the council agenda for just a brief period of time and it's going to go away tomorrow. This is genuinely caused a division in our community, and it goes down to trust, and a lot of people's trust is broken. And so the city has some responsibility in trying to rebuild a sense of community. I mean, that's why we have events in our community, is to create a stronger sense of community. So anything that we can do that will reassure the public, but also is fair, I think is appropriate.
Okay. we've now had quite an extended discussion about something that was not on the agenda. I think that if 2 or more council members want to put this on the next agenda, perhaps representatives from that organization could explain what happened and whether it was affiliated with Frontier Days or not.
I hear you, Jim, but I do believe that this was an agenda item in the sense that I was allowed to have my comment period, and these were my comments, although I may have spoke for 5 or 7 minutes, that this was an agendized item to allow me the time to speak about community issues. But I agree, if we'd like further information, then it should take 2 members for a much deeper conversation.
Larry, did you want to chime in on any of this, or do you have something you want to talk about?
Oh, this is. I understand not very much about it, but I understand that it happened, and I would like to know more about it. If there's anything that the city could do or would do to get back the trust that was broken. Thank you.
So, would you join Sabrina in wanting this to come back?
Yes.
I need some clarification on what you're asking staff to do, because I don't know what else I can do.
Well, there's not much because it's outside the city, but the one thing that I see is that we had a trust with the Frontier Days, and it seems like that was broken by certain people. Now, whether it was a lot of people at Frontier Days, I have no idea. But I've always found that clean it up and everybody knows what happened, and then you go on from there.
This is Jerry.
Yes.
So, what I would envision is the information I got from folks that I talked to, and also I did staffing in the county, in which case we wouldn't have jurisdiction. But I don't know that for a fact. I guess that's the question I have, is if it came back for, I guess, worst case scenario, I would see maybe a letter from us just to remind them, it was a private event, that basically expect them to adhere to what is there. And I'll be honest, even though we all signed that letter that we sent the other group, I remind all the council members, we all said for the letter to go out, that we also did not have the ability to do anything. So I think what I expressed to our caller was that if it had happened in the city, the best we could do is send a terse letter. And at this point, that's all we could do, is send a letter just reminding Frontier Days that we just expect everybody to abide by the same rules. If that's the extent, I would be happy with that. As far as trust, I think it's up to individuals to get that back. We just have to make sure that there's no wrongdoing in the city.
So I guess my question is, if we're going to write a letter to Frontier Days asking them, are we going to be saying to them, you should not have done this, when our information is that it was not a Frontier Days activity?
Again, I don't know if this was or wasn't, and I guess that's it. We've got 2 council members that want it brought back, that maybe we just come back and...
I just want to clarify, if I'm not sure what I'm being asked to do. So I just need clarification.
Mayor, if I might? I would agree with Mayor Gonzalez. I'd like to see a letter written in a generic format, so to speak, to Frontier Days, asking that they please adhere to the same policies and procedures that we asked of the same group, and that they make sure that they understand what the ordinance is, and that the members of their group all in spirit of working together as a community and keeping each other safe, that they please follow the county health orders. It doesn't have to be specific to the party, but I do think that it warrants a letter just reminding them to be good citizens of the community like we've always experienced in the past.
So did you want me to bring back a letter, or did you want to bring back the item for more information?
Personally, just want to know, did it happen? Any of this happen at all in the city or not? And then if it was, or wasn't, because at this point what I've got, and I'll be honest with you, social media, it wields such, between threats that are supposedly out there that I've heard, one side or another side. I mean, I guess it's like a vicious whip sometimes. Sometimes it's used for good. Sometimes it could fan flames of distrust. And I just, like Larry, I just want to get the facts out and not get it on Facebook, but come back and say this is what we know to be true. Ed?
I was just going to suggest that I think for the agenda item that is being asked for is that we have a relatively generic letter to the Frontiers Day Committee and Board that we are, that the city is very concerned that all future activities adhere to the public health orders, and we'd be happy to work with them on that. And it's extremely important for the whole health of the community, but not really in the agenda item rehash what just happened. It may come up in the discussion of it if we want clarification, if people want to find out exactly what happened. But I don't see much advantage to going back and rehashing what happened last weekend. Personally, I think it's going forward.
You're right. I think that's it. I mean, I guess I kind of look at it like just like some cover it out, put it out there, and say we expect all our folks, all our good and actors out there to behave, want everybody to behave and keep us safe, especially as the numbers start to rise in the county.
And that would be true for any other organization as well. When Well is going to have this forum, we're going to do it by Zoom. We're not going to have an in-person forum. And when churches are meeting, they still have to have the social distancing and masks. So it really applies to every organization and private parties and everybody else. So the generic letter to Frontiers Day, it can be used multiple times to multiple groups if needed.
Okay, I think that helps. Thank you. Jim, did you have anything? Are we good with doing this?
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. I totally agree with you that we shouldn't be addressing something that happened outside of the city limits that's involved. It's outside of the city's jurisdiction, but it is appropriate to, if there are concerns about future Frontier Days events or other events of any organization, that we expect them to comply with county guidelines.
Okay. I guess at this point unless any other council member has something else, I guess I'll move on to good and welfare. I'll just say that.
Hey, Jerry, it's Greta. Can I have one more recommendation?
Right.
I don't know if everyone else got the same email, but there was an email that came in, I believe, yesterday. I'm just pulling it up right now, from Brenda Vargas about a tobacco grant program from the state of California, a grant program to help local agencies promote Healthier California by reducing illegal sales and marketing of cigarettes and tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, to minors. And I just wondered if there was any interest from the rest of the council to see if there was any staff time available in the Community Development Department to go after a grant like this to help with reducing underage tobacco use in our community.
Well, in terms of staff time, we're really swamped, and community development especially is pretty slammed. As the council will to do that, we would have to reorganize our priorities.
I don't want to disagree, but I have heard different reports from staff from that department.
Oh, if that's true, let me know. I Dusty and I have reviewed, there's a number of things in the queue. So if he does, if council members want that to happen, I can certainly look into it and request and ask the Community Development Department if that's true.
I'll tell you, Retta had sent me a question, and my only thought was I would want a staff member just to review the requirements under the grants to see whether it's something that would be too much for us to take on or not. What it is, the way these work are, I think you get these grants, sometimes county agencies get them, it looks like their cities could do it too, and you everything from enforcement to education is. But the problem is if you get the money, you still have to go out and have a staff person do some of the work. Or you contract out. In case, the county had a contract that where they would send in the tobacco kids to come in and try and buy tobacco, and then they would send letters out. Passed. And I think that was one of these grants. But again, it provides, you need to have the in-house staff to do the work, and in addition to getting the grant, obviously, I guess that's my only trepidation is if we go after one of these, is it something we can manage and actually fulfill?
And that's actually what the writing of the grant is the one thing, and we've been really good at that. It's now we're sitting on a whole lot of money and a whole lot of projects, grant projects that need to be administered, and that's actually what I'm very concerned about right now. But I can discuss this with our community development department to see what the capacity is. I certainly don't have a capacity anywhere else to do it. Right now, I'm faced with a lot of staff that are unable to take their vacations or their time before the end of the fiscal year, and people are not really happy about that because they can't take any vacation time, and a lot of us have been working every weekend. So I know it's been a little tough, but if that's, I will reach out to the Community Development Department to see if they've got some time.
So, Madge?
Yeah, I realize we didn't give any report on the Finance Committee meeting, but probably should mention that we met this morning, and we included the first draft of the budget from our new finance director, and is, as we expected, not looking very good. We're running a huge deficit, and there's not a whole lot of solutions to that. We also had on the line for a while the consultant, Larry, what's his last name?
Tramatola?
Tramatola, yes. And so he and the police chief are going to be putting together some materials that hopefully will be very succinct and informative about what our choices are going forward, and kind of what we the hard choices. I hate to use that because it's so generic, but we're really facing kind of a do or die situation with our finances. So in the next few weeks before that July 29th meeting, we should have some data and some options to look at, and I think it's going to be really important to look really seriously at. I would recommend, and I think our finance committee recommends, that we put a ballot measure forward to ask our voters if they want to fund the city to stay alive or not. So I just wanted to report that it was a productive and kind of, it's a difficult meeting because we really are facing a brick wall. And I hope that we all look at those, the information that's coming forward really closely.
Thank you, Madge. It's to my mind, and we met this morning, so I just want to say that I really appreciated Mr. Heath and numbers he laid out. It was really easy to read. I know he's got to do some adjusting as part of our discussion. As part of that meeting, he's going to come back with some changes. Yes, some better news, some not so good news, and obviously when it comes back to the whole council. But I guess I kind of want folks thinking if not a ballot measure to let the voters decide, then we're going to have to start looking at where we're going to cut, and I think the cutting needs to start. You just start looking at that roadmap sooner than later. We have an idea. That's what I've got there. I think at this point I'm going to move on to good and welfare.
And I wanted to just chime in. It was mentioned, and I don't think I was going to put it in city manager reports, and I forgot, and I apologize. But with our meeting with Andy, he's been working really hard on our numbers, and partially because of our antiquated financial system and the fact that we've had, several different finance directors. It's taken him some time to put these numbers together, and we would like to ask to put off our budget meeting to July 29th instead of the 15th, because he's just not ready. He says he really can't do it before the 29th and get this in shape. So we were going to move our meeting on the move our meeting from the 15th, because we don't have a budget yet, to the 29th.
And not have a meeting on the 22nd, correct?
And not have a meeting on the 22nd.
Yeah. And I wanted to also just add that I was really impressed with his grasp of the situation and the clarity of his presentation of what the numbers are. It's been, for me, that's extremely important, and he's very objective about it. He's not saying, you should do this and not that, but here's your situation, here are your choices, and I think it's going to be really important to have that kind of objective analysis at our command.
Okay. Any other good and welfare? Just want to say thank you for those folks that stayed home on the 4th. I did do a quick drive around, and like everybody themselves, from what I could see. Right, we have one closed session notice again, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code 5497.6, agency negotiators Stephanie Deborah, Sarah, City Manager Karen Stevenson, Human Resources, Employee Organization, Willis Police Officers Association, and National Brotherhood of Elected News. If you have something to report out, I'll report out.
Can we have a 10-minute break and convene that closed session at 8:15?
Sure.
Is that okay?
8:15.
Okay, great.
Thank you.